We as journalists have such a tremendous opportunity to be able to provide healing to communities through telling each other's stories. That's what I want to achieve.
I'm Taylor Torregano in Oceanside, skydiving for veterans.
It's Monday, December 30th. The rush hour is on. Time to slow things down and get you up to speed on the day's top stories. Up first, Jimmy Carter, the 39th president of the United States, has died at 100 years old after spending nearly 2 years in hospice care. Now to a story that's been the topic of conversation for many Americans. The saga involving Luigi Mangione, the suspect behind the murder of the United Healthcare CEO. We're joined now by Ariel Wessler with the very latest developments. Ariel, all eyes are on this case. We saw Mangione being transferred to jail this past week. So what's next in this process?
Yeah, so we saw that perp walk.
Well, we've been here for hours at this point, and there are miles and miles of homes that look like this, either completely engulfed in flames or already leveled to the ground by the fire that has ripped through these Pacific Palisades neighborhoods. When we walked up, Kate, we saw David kind of salvaging through the remains, looking for things that might have been spared. What'd you find?
These are just a few keepsakes that I found around the house. None of these are particularly sentimental, but they're things to remember our time living here by.
Santa Ana gusts aren't going anywhere, so you speak about that wall. It doesn't feel like we're anywhere near the end of this yet. Meteorologists expect north to northeast winds to continue through Wednesday morning. So can you just walk us through what these next few days could look like for the firefighting effort?
You can see there is still a very active firefight. We are on Sunset Boulevard, right where it meets Palisades Drive. You might have seen the images yesterday. It was incredible to see. Many people, there's only one way in and out. And so many people literally panicked on this road and abandoned their vehicles. You can see they're still here. And I keep hearing the word apocalyptic. It's hard for these firefighters to make any headway, and there's no containment because as soon as we attack one fire, another one pops up.
Well, that's just it, is like we were having ember casting.
And the situation sounded so fluid there. The residents that I've spoken with, they said at 1 minute they were watching the flames up on the canyon going the opposite direction, and then winds shifted and the flames were coming straight for that neighborhood that we see you in now, which is it means that everything happened very quickly, and it might be why we heard from those kiddos that you interviewed. They're having a hard time understanding or even processing what just happened.
Yeah, and what was interesting, Taylor, was...
And that show of support you're talking about is what one small bookstore owner says the town has always done. When Octavia's Bookshelf first opened as the first and only Black-owned bookstore in Pasadena just about 2 years ago now, the community blew wind under its wings to give the communications manager turned small business owner a fighting chance. So when it was time for her to do the same, she says she did not think twice. So we talked about that influx of support when she first opened, right? She had that tweet that went viral, so a lot of people really showed up. But then in the next 2 years, it was really hard for her to stay open. She started this GoFundMe, and I wanted to just read a little piece of it because she said, book selling is a tricky animal, as you just mentioned, and being a Black woman entrepreneur adds another level of hardship that she says she wasn't quite prepared for. But again, it's so beautiful to see because she put out that statement. She started a GoFundMe. This was about a year or so ago. And $100,000 came in to support her. I can see clearly now.
The rain is gone. For now, we'll talk about the next chance for rain too.
Thank you, Robert. Cactus League play is officially underway in Glendale, Arizona. The Dodgers are getting their first game time experience since winning the World Series roughly 4 months ago. It's always a tight turnaround for the boys in blue, especially for players like Mookie Betts, who are playing in new positions. But for the fans, spring training and the return of Dodgers baseball is always welcome, especially for our Nikki Kay, who takes us to Camelback Ranch. The city says that's thanks to 10 deep dewatering wells that are removing water from 350 feet below the surface. The problem now, they say, is they need more money as the funding runs dry. And here in SoCal, across Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties, nearly 3 million residents were undocumented or lived in a household with an undocumented family member in 2021. So you can see there is a lot at stake under a new Trump administration. And it's also really cool to witness the healing, uniting power of music on such a large scale, which is what we've been able to witness with Kendrick Lamar. We watched him bring together rival gangs and really the entire West Coast with one song. So I'm curious, is that the goal for TDE as you continue to shape the industry with the artists that are signed with you now?
Yeah, I think our whole goal is always unity.
I'm told the owner of this home with the trains you're looking at now is the one who kind of orchestrates all of Candy Cane Lane and makes it all happen. He says 15,000 people were here for opening night on Saturday. And obviously this is a huge event, right? It's a destination now, and it's really brought El Segundo to the county, the state, and even the world with that movie Candy Cane Lane that was based off of this street starring Eddie Murphy that came out last year. So this really offers a big economic boost for the city of El Segundo as attendees come for the Christmas lights, but they stay for the local businesses and eateries. More on what was in the bill and maybe perhaps just as important what was not in the bill. We know that President-elect Trump inserted himself asking for an increase of the debt ceiling and some spending cuts. Why was Trump's request such a big sticking point here?
Yeah, so the debt ceiling is a really important thing.
Well, we're actually at the Riverside County Registrar of Voters office. You can see there is a steady stream of voters that have been filing in for as long as we've been here, since about noon. This line that you see now is for voters who don't even have to exit their vehicles. They can drop their ballots off from the convenience of their cars. And we're going to walk over just steps away. There's another line of voters who prefer to bring their ballots into the actual voting center in person. This is one of those races that could determine who controls Congress. And as with many of these races, redistricting really changed the layout here in this region, making it a fairly even split between registered Republicans and Democrats. Good afternoon, Giselle. You can see I am already ready in my Dodgers throwback, and so is the city as multiple agencies join forces to prepare for the World Series celebrations. Of course, security is very tight here, but we've been watching the U.S. Secret Service check people in all day, going through their bags and making everybody walk through a metal detector. We also reached out to them in order to try to get some sort of statement about their plans here today. They, of course, couldn't share too many details, but did tell us they are working very closely with local law enforcement to ensure this area is secure. And I did want to step out of the way, Kat, to show you one more thing. There is a full plexiglass perimeter around the podium where former President Trump will be speaking. It will serve as a barrier in case there is another assassination attempt. That is the moment when the incident occurred at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. You can see a full crowd behind the former president as he was giving his campaign speech. When the pops began to ring out, Trump almost immediately grabs his ear. Many people in the crowd also ducking for cover behind him. Law enforcement says they're trying to gain access to the suspected shooter's phone for information on ideology, motive. What does that process look like, and what sort of information will they be looking for?
Well, they do a forensic examination.
We're comfortable, right?
Not too bad, but it's up and down.
Up and down. And then the overnight lows, of course, on the chilly side. Did you feel them this morning? They were rather, did you?
It was freezing.
It was freezing.
You could see that these sandbags behind me really did not stand a chance against the major flooding that we saw here on PCH in Long Beach this morning. The good news is the water that was completely covering this sidewalk has since receded. The bad news is that residents and business owners in this area say this is what happens every time we see a major storm like the one that came through here this morning. And at this point, they're just bracing for the next ones to come rolling in. The impact of our mental health in everyday life is universal, but no two struggles are the same. Over the next hour, we will hear from people in our communities who are sharing their journeys through mental illness and highlighting their stories of hope. Over the next half hour, I'll bring you some of the inspiring stories of resilience, determination, broken glass ceilings, and building bridges. As you can see, there is a lot of history along Rosecrans, and joining me now to dig a little deeper into that history is Kelly Wallace. She's the California History Specialist at LA Public Library. You've done so much research on the history of Los Angeles as a whole, particularly when it comes to streets. Can you speak a little bit about that? Before, this space actually transitioned into the home of the Apollo space program, which we know sent the first humans to the moon. Now, Downey's a little bit more quiet and quaint, but that rich history really laid the foundation for residents today to chase their dreams. On one extreme, you have high-end luxury apartments that are on the market right now for anywhere between $2,000 to $15,000 a month. Those high-rises are located right next to encampments like the one you see behind me, where people are living without any roof over their head.
much less a very costly one.
Los Angeles experienced a 22% increase in traffic fatalities from 2018 to 2022. Among those, the data shows Black Angelenos made up 21% of fatal victims, nearly 3 times their population in the city. I took a look into the study and met with the authors to discuss these disturbing trends.
In a historic move, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation is transferring prisoners with death sentences out of San Quentin Prison.
Yeah, that's right, Ahmed. You could see this is one of several homes here in Baldwin Hills that have been yellow tagged by the city as crews continue to assess the damage here. And I want to bring you inside the home. The woman who lives here, Miss Dion, says that crews have also been in and out of this house all day, removing the last bit of furniture that was not ruined by the mud because she can no longer live here. You can probably hear that loud noise in the background. Crews are also busy boarding up the doors and the windows that are still open in case this next storm brings in additional mudslides into her home. But this is the cause of it all. This is what happened just a couple days ago overnight. You can see a massive mudslide came crashing into her bedroom.